Hello, I'm Curtis A. Routley, and I'd like to thank you for coming to the Running Prophecy channel. This lesson is the Abomination of Desolation. In Lesson 2, Ezekiel's Israel is Approaching, Part 2, the When, I used a time chart to show you that Daniel's 70th week was sitting like a goalpost on top of day 1290. And the event of the middle of the 70th week, the abomination that makes desolate, is exactly the same event as occurs on day 1290 when the abomination of desolation appears. And from the time chart, I showed you that the year that is expected is the year 2019, plus or minus a year and a half. Because the ratio of the heavenly day to the earthly year is one heavenly day to 1.5 years on the earthly calendar. So there can be a morning, noon, or night difference of a year and a half for the event. But when the event takes place, will you know it's what the scriptures are talking about? And to open your eyes to this event, to help you to see it clearly, I'm going to teach you what the abomination of desolation is. I went through undergraduate navigator training, class 6122N at Harlingen Air Force Base. And upon graduation, I was commissioned an officer and a navigator in the United States Air Force. Then virtually the entire class went on to bombardier training at Mather Air Force Base, class 63C. And when the FBI completed our background checks, we were granted top secret nuclear clearances, we were trained in the theory, the operation, the ballistics, and the resultant use of the atomic bomb. And it's because I've had the training to do that, I can take you through chapter and verse in the Bible and teach you its meaning completely clearly, where you will see and understand what God is about to do. Now in Matthew chapter 24, verses 15 through 22, and in Mark chapter 13, verse 14, Jesus is speaking. He's saying, "And when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, let the reader understand." Now, if I am the one who understands, and I am able to teach you clearly what the scriptures are saying so that you can see it as well as me, then you have become a reader as well. And you will not be caught unawares on the day that this event takes place. And I asked myself, how big is the abomination of desolation? Is it something that you can hold in your hands? Is it as big as a man? Is it as big as a house? Is it bigger than any house any man has ever built? And I realized by the rest of the words that Jesus told us how big it was. He said, "Let not the one in the land of Judah that's on his housetop stop to get anything out of his house, but let him flee to the mountains. And let not him working in the field even stop to get his cloak, but let him flee to the mountains." And I asked, is there only one man or two men with one house and one field in the land of Judah? This event could be small then. But the population of Israel has just gone over 8 million people. And from the allotment procedure, I showed you that the distance from the mountain pass at northern Lebanon to the city of Tamar, 11 kilometers north of Eilat, is 300 nautical miles. Now, if the event occurs in the northern third, how big does it have to be so that everyone in the land of Israel can see it at the same instant of time and recognize it for what it is? From my navigator training, A sailor on a ship could see 7 miles due to the curvature of the earth. A person flying at 10,000 feet can see 100 miles due to the curvature of the earth. A person flying above 30,000 feet can see 200 to 250 nautical miles. So if the event is 200 miles away from you, how big does it have to be for you to be able to see it and recognize it for what it is? With that question in the back of my mind, I went reading through the scriptures. And I encountered something very significant. And I'll take you there in just a moment. But I want to back up for a minute to reference that Daniel chapter 12 timeline again. The 1,260 days, which is the time period of the tribulation. So since the 1,260-day period is over, and someone comes along and says it's over, what does that do to your theology? The tribulation's over, and you haven't left yet. Whoa. Something's wrong with Christian theology. Very wrong in Christian theology. Because Daniel's 70th week is knocking at the door. And the last half of the 70th week is called the time of Israel's great tribulation. The last half of the week being what is called 3.5 days long. The last time period given in the scriptures until the king of Israel returns to the land of Israel. I'll let that sink in, but I won't pursue that at the moment. In Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 33, the scripture records, with great wrath and an outstretched arm, I will be king over you. Before the king comes, wrath comes, because Israel has not been compliant with his word. What is the wrath that's coming? If the event is 200 miles away from you, the cloud has got to rise 20 to 40,000 feet for you to be able to see it. What is there in the scripture that's that big? Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4 is a very unique verse of scripture. In it, Ezekiel says this in his call to service from the Lord. I saw a violent windstorm, a great cloud with light flashing to and fro, and something like red-hot molten metal in the middle of the fire, in the middle of the cloud. And my bombardier training kicked in, and I said, my God, I was trained to drop that thing. A violent windstorm, a great cloud, singular, with light flashing to and fro, not lightning, light, and something in the middle of the cloud like red-hot molten metal in the middle of the fire, in the middle of the cloud. And I said, Ezekiel's looking at an atomic bomb going off. And I began to search the scriptures a little more diligently for the passages that referred to it. And the first passage I found in the Bible that refers to the abomination of desolation, to the atomic bomb going off, I find in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 24. Where the Lord is saying, if you do not keep my words to do them, I will rain your land upon your head like powder and dust until you are consumed. That's what the bomb does. It lifts the land up and pours it down over your head like powder and fine dust. And it kills you. Radiation chemically bonds with hair. You cannot wash it out. If you are exposed to fallout, you have to shave off all your bodily hair, or it's just going to bore in through your skin, destroy your tissues and bones, and kill you, because that's what radiation does. Now, do you really think that all I am trying to do here is to scare the living daylights out of you? I'm trying to show you what the scriptures say, the things that are coming upon the land of Israel. And not in the next decade, in this one. In Amos chapter 8, verse 8, and in chapter 9, verse 5, Amos records, I will cause your land to rise up like the Nile and subside. And the big pressure differences that are caused by the explosion and the ignition of this bomb cause the land to rise up. And then parts of it are lifted up into the cloud, forming the cloud, joining with that red-hot molten metal in the sky that went kaboom, and in the instant of ignition reached a 10 million degree temperature. In Isaiah chapter 33, verses 9 through 14, and chapter 13, verses 7 through 8, they will look at one another in astonishment, their faces aflame. Now here you have two people out in the yard looking at each other, facing each other when the bomb goes off right over there. And in that instant of time, the last thing one of them sees is the face of the other person going up in flames. And the last thing that person sees is this other person's face going up in flames. And you have no body anymore. And you're lying a heap of rubble on the ground. Wrath. It's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. Isaiah 33 gave 3 of the initial ground zeros for the bombs to go off. And the plain of Sharon will be a desert place. This is Ezekiel's valley of the dry bones. How can you see a valley full of dry bones? There's something missing from that picture. This is not called a desert to start with, it's called a valley. And the color of a valley is green. Where's the greenery gone? In that flash of light instant, no more greenery, it's all burned up and gone. And Israel's army who was gathered there is laid low to the ground. And all you have left of it are their bones. And the top of Mount Carmel shall be bare. No, that's close enough to the Mediterranean Sea. It will never lose its vegetation no matter how severe a drought. But when this bomb goes off between Mount Carmel and Haifa, it takes all the greenery. And Mount Bashan shall be bare. Mount Bashan is Amman, Jordan. And then you have Tel Aviv, Cairo, the Aswan Dam, Khartoum, and the last 5 make the land between the Nile and Libya so polluted that no foot of man nor beast can cross it for 40 years. And the onrush of the water from the Aswan Dam causes the Nile to carve 7 streams of water, and the Nile River never floods again. And you can walk over it dry shod. Zechariah chapter 13. verses 8 and 9 says 2/3 of the population of the land of Israel is going to die. And it goes on to say that 1/2 the population of the city of Jerusalem is going to die. Now this is about 5 million people in the land of Israel. And I will bring the 1/3 through the fire and refine them as silver is refined, and make them worthy to enter my kingdom, which is coming at the end of the 70th week. What do you say? But God bless you.